ask all of you to close your eyes for a second. Thank you. And I want you to think back to the time when you didn't use Enneagram. It's a little bit like, I think most of us know that being a parent, you can never ever take off the role of being a parent, right? No matter how old you are, you will always be a parent if you are one. There is before you became a parent, and then the day after. And while you're closing your eyes, I want you to think about how was life before you knew these 9 numbers. What worked better in your life before you knew this crappy tool? And how has it changed your life? And I think a lot of people think we're strange when we talk in numbers because we're not accountants. So why do we talk in numbers when people don't understand it? So I will try to make it my contribution to the Enneagram world to make ordinary people understand what the hell are we talking about. So you're allowed to open your eyes and see me shift to my entertainment shirt. Especially brought home from France. I saw it in the shop, and the second I saw it, I said to Christina, I want that. What about the price? Don't care. I want that. Isn't it cool? I don't know if I like it, but I think it's pretty cool. Now I'm spending time taking off all my clothes, and later on I will strip. So it's a really, really... So, you can probably hear already now that I'm not South African, I'm from Denmark, and which means English is not my native language. And which means that if I say something blunt, in political correct, something that will shock you, it's because I don't speak English, it's not my native language. I actually often say this as a warning for myself, which means when I did speak in Stockholm recently, I said to the Stockholm people that I'm politically correct in Denmark. Even in Denmark, I shock people. So in Sweden, I almost get arrested by saying that. So it's actually one of my things when I do an introduction to the Enneagram. I actually say to people, I have 3 ways I want to teach you the Enneagram today. One of them is I think we should have fun. Laugh with our colleagues, not about them. Laugh with our people, not laughing about them. So would it be okay that we will laugh for the next 2 hours? Yes. Then I say to people, I will probably provoke at least 90% in the room. 98 if I'm lucky. The reason why I provoke is not to provoke itself. It is, God damn it, you know. And what happens inside me, this is on-the-job training, is that I'm now like a volcano inside. In a second, I will destroy the shirt. But I have to, because I know there's one in here. So if I don't do it, they will look at this for all the show. They're thinking, why didn't he dress properly? Let me give you an example. For those of you who have a spouse in your life, you have probably all experienced that person saying to you, when you do that, honey, do you have any idea how much you look like your dad? If the person you live with say you look like your dad or your mom, is it fair to say one of these sentences will make you mad? Is it fair? It's a little like you can say anything else. You can say I've become fat, you can say I have gray hair, you can say I'm a lousy chef, but don't tell me I look like my mom. The reason why you get provoked, is it's no. There's a reason why it's called larger than. I know for a fact that if you are speaker in another country, you have to say, especially if you're in the US, you have to spend at least 10 minutes thanking God and the people around that I'm here. So I hope you realize I'm extremely honored to be. Thank you. This is just to silence down the sixes. This is just to let you know that I've read books. I said to my new friend in first row right down here, Michael, he's here 5. I don't know if that's allowed to say Michael, but now it's out there. And I said to Michael yesterday, you can be pretty sure you will learn nothing tomorrow when I'm here. Because I'm by definition not the person inside the room who knows the Enneagram the most. That's a fact. By the way, who is? Jerry probably, yeah, in my opinion. And I will come back to that exactly. So, I've done training with, I think, all the big teachers, and every time I learn something new, some of them provokes me, some of them I like their style better than others, but I came to the conclusion years ago that every time I get provoked or ignored, I have to read more. It's not because it's a bad teacher, it's because I still have to look inside. Why can that person provoke me? So normally I say I will make us laugh, and I will provoke you, perhaps I already did. And the last one is, I really, really want to make you go away with something you learned, if you are not Enneagram audience. In this case, why I said yes to this is not to brag or to show you how good or bad I am. It is actually my gift back to the environment, that if you can take anything away from the style I'm doing this, so you can have more clients, so you can earn more money teaching Enneagram, I would be honored to be a part of that. Okay? So send me an email if you want this presentation, or however it functions, so you can have everything I do, because there will be nothing new. Okay? Yeah, I have more to that. Because here's a picture. I took it actually yesterday. On YouTube somewhere there is a 1.5 hour Enneagram. Thank you. And I want you to think back to the time where you didn't use Enneagram. It's a little bit like, I think most of us know that being a parent, you can never ever take off the role of being a parent, right? No matter how old you are, you will always be a parent if you are one. There is before you became a parent, and then there are the after. And while you're closing your eyes, I want you to think about how was life before you knew these 9 numbers. What worked better in your life before you knew this crappy tool? And how has it changed your life? And I think a lot of people think we're strange when we talk in numbers, because we're not accountants. So why do we talk in numbers when people don't understand it? So I will try to make it my contribution to the Enneagram world to make ordinary people understand what the hell are we talking about. So you're allowed to open your eyes and see me shift to my entertainment shirt. Especially brought home from France. I saw it in the shop, and the second I saw it, I said to Christina, I want that. What about the price? Don't care. Give it. I want that. Isn't it cool? I don't know if I like it, but I think it's pretty cool. Now I'm spending time taking off all my clothes, and later on I will strip. So it's a really, really... So, you can probably hear already now that I'm not South African, I'm from Denmark, and which means English is not my native language. And which means that if I say something blunt, in political correct, something that will shock you, it's because I don't speak English. It's not my native language. Is that right? I actually often say this as a warning to myself, which means when I did speak in Stockholm recently, I said to the Stockholm people that I'm impolitically correct in Denmark. Even in Denmark, I shock people. So in Sweden, I almost get arrested by saying that. So it's actually one of my things when I do an introduction to the Enneagram. I actually say to people, I have 3 ways I want to teach you the Enneagram today. One of them is I think we should have fun. Laugh. Laugh with our colleagues, not about them. Laugh with our people, not laughing about them. So will it be okay that we will laugh for the next 2 hours? Then I say to people, I will probably provoke at least 90% in the room. 98 if I'm lucky. The reason why I provoke is not to provoke itself. It is, wait, God damn it. And what happens inside me, this is on-the-job training, is that I'm now like a volcano inside. In a second, I will destroy the show. But I have to, because I know there's one in here. So if I don't do it, they will look at this for all the show. They're thinking about why didn't he dress properly. Let me give you an example. For those of you who have a spouse in your life, you have probably all experienced that person saying to you, when you do that, honey, do you have any idea how much you look like your dad? If the person you live with say you look like your dad or your mom, is it fair to say one of these sentences will make you mad?
Yeah.
Is it fair? It's a little like you can say anything else. You can say I've become fat, you can say I have grey hair, you can say I'm a lousy chef. But don't tell me I look like my mom. The reason why you get provoked, the reason why you get provoked is there's a reason why it's called larger than. And I know for a fact that if you are a speaker in another country, you have to say, especially if you're in the US, you have to spend at least 10 minutes thanking God and the people around that I'm here. So I hope you realize I'm extremely honored to be here. Thank you. This is just to silence down the sixes. This is just to let you know that I'm pretty close. I said to my new friend in the first row I have down here, Michael, he said 5. I don't know if it's allowed to say Michael, but now it's out there. And I said to Michael yesterday, you can be pretty sure you will learn nothing tomorrow when I'm here. Because I'm by definition not the person inside the room who knows the Enneagram the most. That's a fact. By the way, who is Jerry? Jerry probably, yeah, in my opinion. And I will come back to that exactly. So, I've done training with, I think, all the big teachers, and every time I learn something new, some of them provokes me, some of them are like Das Steinberg and others, but I came to the conclusion years ago that every time I get provoked or ignored, I have to read more. It's not because it's a bad teacher, it's because I still have to look inside. Why can that person provoke me? So normally I say I will make us laugh, and I will provoke you, perhaps I already did. And the last one is, I really, really want to make you go away with something you learned, if you are not Enneagram audience. In this case, why I said yes to this is not to brag or to show you how good or bad I am. It is actually my gift back to the environment, that if you can take anything away from the style I'm doing this, so you can have more clients, so you can earn more money teaching Enneagram, I will be honored to be a part of that. Okay? So send me an email if you want this presentation, or however it functions, so you can have everything I do, because there will be nothing new. Okay? Yeah, I have more to, because here's a picture I took actually yesterday. On YouTube somewhere there is a 1.5 hour Enneagram Master Q&A's round table discussion. And what question? Do you remember?
I do. Why were you in the center?
You know why. No, and the reason why I brought this picture is that I was invited to be a part of that panel. And look at those guys. If you know just a little bit about the Enneagram. At a certain point in that presentation, I said to the guys, to the old men, it's fair to say, Jerry, you are an old bugger compared to me. I said to these guys, why am I here? Because we have doctors, we have authors that have written books that have sold 8 million copies. We have presidents of IE Globals. We have, and I'm just Claus from Roskilde outside Copenhagen. Why am I here? Because all the questions people from all around the world send in, all of these guys or girls could explain or answer those questions better than I do, for sure. And in a break, because if you are with, and I don't know, Dave Daniels, type 6, Tom Condon as 6. Who do we have here? Sandra Matry and Sandra type 8. Then we have Ross, 5, me, Deborah Uten, an 8, Jerry type 5, Catherine, an 8, and David type 4. And they were just interviewing, they were not a part of the panel. So this was the panel. At a certain point I said to Tom, why am I here? And he laughed. You know, if you know Tom, you never get a straight answer. You have to figure out what he's trying to say to you. And he laughed and he said to Jerry, isn't he sweet? and I said, no, to be honest, you have to help me because otherwise I become angry. And that's bad when you're on television. So help me out here. And he hoped this. He's the tallest Enneagram teacher, by the way. Jerry said, all teachers have something they say. I'm the biggest, I'm the funniest, I'm the tallest, he said. And then he said, and I never forget it, that's why I come to cry every time I tell the story. He said, if the Enneagram needs to be a tool for the planet, we need a person who can bring it out there. Because he says, I'm a 6, I'm strange. 5s are even stranger. They read books, but if there's nobody reading them, it doesn't help the world. And they made amazingly good books. All of them, and I've read them several times. And Tom eventually said, the Enneagram will need an Anthony Robbins Claus, and that's you. And I don't know if I should be proud of that, because I don't see Anthony Robbins always that high-level function. type 3 at a lower levels, not a pretty sight. So I was like, do you claiming that I'm an 8 at a lower level, so we need an asshole like that? No, he just said, you have a talent, Claus, use it well. And from that day forward, I accepted the fact. And I think it could be Jared who said that you are the recruiter. The recruiter. Which means that if we will have 1,000 people to really change, how many people have to hear about the Enneagram before 1,000 people change? So I will send my highest respect to how you do it. It can be you a coach and you save the planet one by one. It can be you do corporate training, as I do, where you train a leadership of 8 or a department of 30. I will try my best to save the world. So I don't have time for one-to-one. You can do it. I can have my clients to coach them. I don't have the time because we are in a hurry. That's why I do what I do. Okay. Here's a pictures of who I am. Some of this is really, really easy to understand, or you're really, really stupid. I love to fish. I have a motorcycle. I'm a big brother to my sister Anja, who's a 7. I'm a winter bather, which means that I several times per week, when it's winter in Denmark, go through the ice. It's the second best thing you can do without clothes on. I have for 24 years been married to or engaged with Birgitte down in the corner. And she was actually the secretary in the job I had at that point of time. And we had a Christmas party, and I can't say more when there's a video on, but it ended up that we got married and we got children. And so, as some of you probably know, she died 3 years ago in my hands of cancer. And I often say to people, take care of your relationships, because it will come to an end, whether you like it or not. She's in form. She's with me here today. So, and my son and daughter in the middle, Christian, he's a type 9. And Sophie, she's a type 7. Actually, I thought Christian for years was a type 3. And that again made me humble, that if I'm as a guru and an Enneagram teacher for more than 10 years, can't even type my own son. Either he's crazy, or I am, or I looked for the wrong things. So don't point out what type other people are. And you will see, I will do that when I do my show, because I gladly talk about the Queen of Denmark, what type she is, and so on. So I, of course, like other teachers say, that I think Bruce Springsteen could be a type 6, and I think Barack Obama is a 9, but I don't know. And I said, let's use that as a, because when we talk the language like that, some people get pissed off, right? Because none of us want to be labeled. But we do it anyway. Okay? We do it anyway, which means that we can have a new employee and we can hear people saying, we got a new one on the second floor. She's like kind of an engineer type. What does that mean? Or we have another one on third grade, on third floor. She's more like the sales type. What does that mean? When you do, if you arrange tables, if you have a party back home, it's fair we cut off all the names and we go around and say who should sit where. And if we have a round table with 10 like yesterday, it's fair to say at least we need 3 funny people at one table. And it's fair to say in some families there are people who are more fun than others. Say yes. So we have 3 funny, then we have 3 who's not that funny, but they're good people. Good people. Fun is not that talent, they have other talents. And then we have the one we're not quite sure, it can go 2 ways depending on how much they drink. And in every family where people don't know the Enneagram at least, there is, Denmark we have a play called Sorte Per. I look for Helle, my Danish friend. What does that mean? It's a card game where you can have all the cards and one of the cards is really bad. And in all families there is a jerk like that, right? The person you're wandering around saying, where should I put him? And it's always like to the one that you say, oh, should I call the person and say, it costs 1,000 rand, if I mobile pay you in the half, you earn money by not coming and we save money, but nobody wants you anyway. Or in corporate life where I say to people, haven't we all had a colleague, to be honest, that we looked at from time to time and thought, who in the hell hired that? Haven't we, right? Don't point if you're with the person here. We have all get that colleague where we think, why did anyone choose that? And if you have been thinking that, and you have, there is a chance, or even a risk, that person was you. And this is where people say, no, I don't think so. No, that's why you're fucked up. Then I'm really happy, and you show that I'm madly, newly in love with Christina, my hopefully wife to come. I actually thought, how lucky am I? It was a tough way to get here with her, trust me. And the price was high. But life happens. And we all know that. Christina is a lovely type 2. She's a sexual 2, so she actually more foyish than Birgitte was as a self-preservation form. They were both hysterical, but they were both attracted to really, really good sex. So that's why she smiles so much. Christina is a type 2, and with Christina I have 2 new family members. I have Mathilde, who's a type 8, and I have small Ophelia, 11 years old, she's a type 9. And with Christina and her children, I got a relationship to a guy called Esben as well, who was Christina's ex-husband 10 years ago, and he's a 5. And nothing against 5s, but I didn't choose to be a friend with Esben. But I had to, because if I'm going to be good bonus stat for the children. I need to relate to Esben, of course I can, and of course I will. So why I do this introduction in front of ordinary normal people is to make us understand that we meet new people. Some of them we choose, some of them we don't. So if we know something which we call the Enneagram, how can it be easier to whatever all the things the Enneagram can, which you can truly understand. You get it? I have a small video. This is Danish, so sorry. But I just want to look at the drawings, and I will tell you in a while. It's a 1 minute 40 seconds video I have on YouTube.
Vil du have værktøjer til bedre kommunikation, øget arbejdsglæde, øget selvindsigt og dermed færre konflikter i dit liv, så følg med her. Jeg hedder Claus Roager og er Danmarks mest anvendte enneagramunderviser. Livet handler om relationer, og enneagrammet er fantastisk til at forstå dig selv, til at udvikle dig selv, til at forstå, hvad der gør dig glad, og til at forstå, hvad der gør dig ked af det. Til at forstå, hvad der motiverer dig, og hvad der stresser dig. Enneagrammet er også et mageløst værktøj til at forstå, hvordan du fungerer med et andet menneske. Det kan være din partner, det kan være dine kollegaer eller dine medarbejdere, det kan være dine børn, det kan være dine venner og bekendte, eller hvordan du indgår i forskellige forretningsmæssige relationer. Så bruges enneagrammet til teamudvikling, til teamdynamik, til at forstå en familiestruktur. Hvad sker der med andre ord, når vi sætter flere mennesker sammen på godt og ondt? Hvorfor snakker nogen meget? Hvorfor er der nogen, der ikke siger så meget? Hvorfor er der nogle mennesker, du bedre fungerer med end andre? Så bruges enneagrammet til at udvikle organisationer, til at lave kulturforandringer, til at beskrive nogle af de konflikter, der kan opstå i en virksomhed, silodannelser, mangel på respekt for forskellige faggrupper eller kulturer. Så bor vi i Danmark, på en til tider kaotisk planet Jorden. Men lad nu være med at tro, at du kan ændre Danmark, eller din arbejdsplads, eller måske teamet eller familien, du indgår i, eller for den sags skyld dit ægteskab, hvis ikke du starter der, hvor det hele startede, nemlig hos dig. Så personlig udvikling handler om, at du kigger på dig, forstår dig, så du kan have nogle mere smidige relationer til andre mennesker. Så på gensyn i Enneagramstedet.
Said shortly, if you want to change the world, change you. Don't spend your time trying to change your spouse, because if you don't like the spouse you have, leave. Or change how you look at your spouse. So and of course I say here, you can use in private relationships, you and your husband, you and your child, and as we know, you can use it in corporates. And so Thursday I had the privilege to do my speak on the Enneagram and sales, and I would like to hear all of you. How many in the room would like to increase their revenue and whatever they do with 5 to 10%? I would. And as I said the Thursday, is that I know so many really good Enneagram teachers and coaches out there that can't live off it because they are not good at selling what they do. So what I do today is to show you 1 million ways of selling the Enneagram by making what I call a edutainment or show Enneagram style. And I know if you know me that I don't do this because I find the Enneagram light. I do it in a light way because I know what the Enneagram can do. Because we have to be aware that when we talk about subtypes and wings and tri-types and lines of integration and object relation and levels of development and shadow side, and most people don't give a flying fuck what that means. So I often say to people, if you want to make a success in business life, speak business language. So it can be called, we talk about mindfulness, fair and square, and most business people know what that means. But we could just say, take a break. They understand that concept even in business life. You get it? We don't have to talk about object relationships, to talk about how we solve conflicts. It's not to talk badly about the heavy theory, but be aware that most people don't want to be what it's called looked at as theory. They want to be looked at as humans. So as the movie says, I believe the best way to change the world is a concentric circle. Start with yourself and work your way out from there. I can't remember here I think it was. So, I think I got this from Ginger once. This is an article from Harvard Business Review. And I read it up and I use it every time I start my shows. That on one line you can measure how competent are you in whatever you do. So if I ask, if you use spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet, some of us are good at it and some of us are not, right? If you, the person, I can't remember the name right now, that make the layout of everything Integrative does, she's much better into aesthetics than I am. Okay? You're probably better in English than I am because it's your native language and so on. So we can measure how good you are in a certain way. And we could use Jerry here as an example. I think, to be honest, that Jerry is much more competent in all the psychological tools than I am. 10,000 times better. And sometimes when I'm with Jerry Wagner and I was with David Daniels, I was with Ross, and I was with Tom. The more I was with them, the more stupid I felt. Because they knew everything about everything, religions and the brain and NLP, and every time I flew back, I bought books and started reading them, and eventually I got to the conclusion, unless I become 176 years old, how should I overwin fives reading books? So, at a certain point back in Denmark, I had a fellow five read books for me. And I said to him, read this, and read that. And tell me in 10 minutes what it's all about. Because I don't have time, because if I have to read all these books, I can't save the world. I don't have time. I would love to, a lot of reading books, I don't have the time. So you can be more or less competent, you get it? On the other line, horizontal line, there is how likable are you? How much do we love you? How much do we miss you when we go away from South Africa? And what a part of beginning being sick was that I for 6 years haven't been at the conference in the US. And I hate it. I miss my friends. And I said to Suzanne, what if they forget me? And they won't. I'm glad. So I would rather be remembered than liked, to be honest. So that's what I, no, of course not. So that gives 4 options, because we start out light, because if I start to normal people, then we have to understand 7.4 billion people, that's too much. We have to understand Asian people, black people, white people, that's too much. We have to, no, let's start light. There are 4 kinds of people in the world to start on. You can be down in that corner, the incompetent fool. You're not good at anything, and on top of that, you're a jerk. It's a bad combination. And I often say in corporate life, if you have colleagues down there, bring HR to a meeting. Make that person develop or leave. And if they have to leave, send them to one of your competitors. That's a win-win. Then you can be in the top corner, the beloved star. And I know, if you are type 3, you already think, that's me. Highly competent, good looking, and likable. That's me. But take care, because the report says it's extremely stressful to be in that corner all the time. Because the combination of being clever and kind will make you a 100 person. So you can choose. And most of us choose, it doesn't mean 100% to 0, it can be 70-30 or 80-40. You can be a psychologist. I hope there will be at least one who laughed. Thank you. I did the biggest gig I ever did was 1,000 nurses from 63 countries. I was simultaneously translated into 16 languages. It was. And the translators later on, when they came back and said, this was a tough job. One of his ears was all red, like it was a burning fire in your ears. You said word, I don't even know how to translate. So, you can be, and I did, it was in a medical industry. So I say in that corner, you can be a doctor, or you can be a nurse in the other end. What I mean is that doctors are not only clever, of course they're kind and sweet people, and of course you will meet a clever nurse someday. Why do I show this? Because 80% of people ask, will rather work with the loved fool than the competent fool. Which gives me the privilege to say to people, we hire you on your professional skills, but we fire you on your personality. So normally I start my public speaking by saying, I don't care what you do. I care who are you to do what you do. I cannot make you a better teacher or better doctor or better IT programmer or whatever, but I can make you a better person. And I will bet you that you will have a better chance of being a good colleague if you're a kind person and good to excel. You get it? I love this picture. I think it was the front cover of Life magazine years ago, many years ago. These children are, I think it's back in 63 or 64. They are at a pantomime theater in Paris. The reason why I love this picture is it's so hard to believe that they are watching the same show. And not all my clients buy the integrative test into an introduction. Because if they only go to a 3 hours introduction for 100 Danish crowns, which is 200 rand, it's a little expensive for them to buy a professional report for 1,800 rand. So they just come and sit down and like, we heard this is good, hit me. And then I say, test number 1, look at that picture, who of these people are you? And I say, in all families and in all corporate, there is a person like the one over here. And it can be a woman. I have to warn you, it could be a woman. And guess what? That's the 8. Down the corner we have my friend Michael, the 5. He later became the IT manager in a small town outside of Johannesburg or whatever. So that's the more introvert guy. Then we have this beautiful type 6. It's a little bit like, she looks like a deer who just was caught by the light. And then we have in the corner, down the corner we have Sean's type 7. It doesn't even listen. Look at the people like the fancy light they have in the room. So people understand it. They understand that it's easy to say, I'm more like that than that. And you all know the quote from Ross Hudson, the Enneagram is not about put you in a box, it's about sending you out of the box you're already in all that. And so, but I have to start by telling them, of course you are in some kind of box. You are male, you are female, you are heterosexual, gay, you are sporty, or you're just watching on television, I don't know. Of course we could be put in boxes. Corporates do it all the time. We put all our clients in a box if we want to sell them something. So of course you are in some kind of a box. So don't be, but people get angry, right, when we label them. I remember when I did my first Enneagram test, I came out an 8. I've done so many personal tests that I was about to puke. And sometimes I was letters, sometimes I was animals, sometimes I was a curve, and sometimes I was a color, and so I remember, holy shit, another test, 20 years ago. Then I came out an 8, and I read there was 9 types, and I came out the second last. I said, what the fuck is that? And I worked 20 plus years in sales, so I'm used to being 1. If not 1, then 2, working my way back to 1. And then I read about 1, and I said, that's not me. That sounds boring. And the Enneagram, as I said when I did my introduction, is if you take the symbol here and you remove everything in the middle, you put a blanket in the middle. Is it fair to say it could symbolize a meeting table where we 9 people at a meeting, we talk about the business plan 2021. Nobody would be afraid. People are like, okay, I'm sitting over here, you're sitting over there, that's cool. You're a woman, I'm a man, you're black, I'm white, that's cool. But the minute we put this in, people say, what's that? Is it a cult? Is it a religion? Is it a sect? Is it Scientology? Is it numerology? What the fuck is it? It's a tool. And I love your work, Gary. You make my job so much easier about the lenses. I love it, and it's a very, very beautiful metaphor. Thank you for that. It's extremely easy to explain to people that we watch as I can see you, but I can't see that, and you can see me, but you can't see that. But if we sat on the table and we turned around on the stool, we could see the world. And then we could meet in the middle. Then I use a lot of statements, all kind of statements that makes people either angry with me or love me, or both. Employees don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses. there's a report in Denmark that on top 3 why people leave their job, the manager or the manager's manager, which give a responsibility if you're a leader. And when I do leadership programs, I say to leaders, I have a funny way of introducing Enneagram to normal people, and then I have a real way to introduce it, and I do that to leaders. Because if you cannot cope with the fact that you're a jerk sometimes, in my opinion, you shouldn't be a leader. There's something, I read something somewhere that there is something called factor 17, which means that for every person you have reporting back to you, there are 17 people that have an opinion about you. Which means that if you have 30 employees, there is almost 500 people talking about you behind your back. Some of it is good and some of it is bad, but I often say to it, it's probably not the full picture of who I am. Do you get it? It's a little like, it's how people talk about you. So you need to be more honest to yourself. Don't work for assholes, don't work with assholes, and in this room we can add, don't be one. I love it when CFO asks CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and they leave us? What happens if we don't and they stay? And I said Thursday, and I will say it again, I have a one-man shop. I'm me, and I have a secretary who is my guardian angel. She does everything I hate, and that's a lot. So everything regarding GDPR, website, accounting, I hate it. And I promised myself, if I could earn the money, I would rather pay a person who loves it a good salary to do it. So I put everything out because I love 3 things with my work. I love to present. I love to have meetings with people. And I love going to workshops and become more clever. Everything else about my job, I hate it. I'd rather give it to somebody else. And why did I say that? There was a reason why I said it. Yes! And if this sounds as bragging, it's not. The intention is not. Because I asked the guys, would it be okay if I said, and they said, yes, of course. When I had my best years, best means revenue-wise, I did equivalent to 10 million rand per year in salary. Wow. Teaching the Enneagram. That, not in salary, but in revenue. That's a lot of money, I think. Is it fair to say? I think it's a lot of money. Doesn't mean I earn them all. Of course, I pay salaries, I buy tests, and I have cost, but it's a lot of money. And I have heard, I'm not sure, not many Enneagram teachers around the world can say that. So if whatever you revenue doing what you do is, if that could be increased with 10% or whatever, because you got something out of this, I could try that, do this. I will give you some tips how I did it 20 years back when I was not known, I hadn't written a book, I didn't want to read one. How goddamn did I become, one of my colleagues in Denmark called me once the Enneagram rock star. And I don't know, is it good or bad? I don't know. But it's fair. Some of us love jazz, some of us want to be the one on the drums, and I will be the singer. I'm the DJ. So, I love this picture. Why do I have to go first? There is no I in a team, Dave. What I use this picture for is to tell people, I want you to accept the fact that on one hand, if you're on the planet or not, doesn't make a difference. You are as expendable as the hole there is a bottle of water, or bucket of water, when you remove your hand. One thing I learned when Birgitte died, of course, thousands and thousands of people think of her and miss her and so on, but real life continued rapidly afterwards. And of course, it should. Of course, it has nothing to do about we forgot her, but the wheel is turning and it doesn't stop because I'm not here anymore. That's one fact. Another fact is that you are probably the one person who could change the world. And I want to accept both facts simultaneously. Do you get it? It's a little bit like telling the people at work, if you're not here, we find another one. Of course we do. But because you're here, you can change our company. And when people dig into that and they try to understand it, they're like, okay, that puts a responsibility on me to be a better person, and it puts a responsibility on me that to know the fact that the way I behave has an impact on other people. I normally say to people, I don't care if you're a jerk. If you do a jerk, if your wife loves it, fair and square. What I really, really don't like is that you being a jerk has a tremendous impact on other people's life. That's not fair. We don't see things as they are, we see things as we are. But we see the world through those lenses, which means that I had a conversation last night at the party where I talked with one of my beloved 6 friends. And I had an employee once who was a 6, and before I knew the Enneagram, if I hadn't knew the Enneagram, I will bet you, I would have had him killed. I would have called the guy I know his secret number and said, that guy, bottom of the leg tomorrow, with concrete shoes on. I mean, it is, because every time he asked questions, I thought he was provoking me. Because if I go to an authority and say, where's this theory from? Who invented it? Why do I do it as an 8? Piss off territory. Do you know what you're talking about? Where's this line from? Why are there different colors? What is it? What is it? That's my style. So when the 6s did that to me, I was immediately thinking, you want to fight? And he said, no, I just want clarification. And I really, to the core of my gut, thought he hated me. And after 3 years being his manager, and then I left the corporate world forever, and I will never come back. I don't have a plan B. I don't have a plan B. It is you. So I left the corporate world, and he held a speech where he said, you have probably been the best manager I've ever had. I said, well, you really covered that well. He said, it felt well when I saw you, I hated you. Because you simply too much. But I realized one thing, we talked about it at the table yesterday, I realized one thing, he said, within 6 months, I sent into that, if there is one person in the corporate I can trust, it's you. You tell straight to my face when I'm jerk, you tell me straight to my face when I do something good. I'm never in doubt where I have you. So it's just a story of how people that can have mixed emotion can end up being good together. All models are wrong, you know that, but some are very useful. And this is just to remind me and the client. Yeah. I love this one. I think in the psychology world it has a name, that if you see yourself better than you are. And I know for those of you who use the test, we call it faking good and faking bad. I say to people, if you think you look like that when you do the plank, but I'm beside you and you look like that. As I said, in a lovely, my intention was to be lovely. When you have a name in your band, 2 tons fun, and you go to the States, and you didn't lie, that's respect for me. You get it? I would have been shocked if they called themselves the 2 slim women. I said, what is fat then in Africa? So what I really love when there's a line between what you say and what you present. Of course, it goes with my type as well. So I over and over again said to people, don't play another type. It won't suit you. Yeah. You can modeling them, you can do all the things we talked about. Of course, we know what the Enneagram can do. But don't, if you're a giraffe, don't like to pretend you're a turtle. So people will see, is that a turtle? Or is it crawling giraffe? My daughter recently signed up for a job, and she did that online because in the smart modern world they don't want papers because it's the parents anyway who write the papers. So they want to do it online. And there was a certain point when she had to answer a questionnaire. There was 4 positive words about being her personality. And Sophie, which at that point was only 17 years old, said to me, even though she knows what I'm doing, she said, Dad, what do you think they want? And I said, I think they want Sophie if she fits the job. So look at those 24 words, and she would take only 8. And they were all positive. And then she said, what would you choose for me? I said, I can do the test beside you. I won't show it to you, but I will do it. And when we did that exercise, 6 of the 8 words was the same. The 7th word was what I call a crossover. I was in doubt, should I take this or that? And she was exactly in doubt the same, and we took the opposite, which was very equal. And then we, of course, we had one word that was different. Then she said, oh, this is funny. Said, yeah, it's a good sign that you see you as I see you. And then she said, she's been here before. If you're spiritual, she's been here at least 6,000 times before, I'm sure. She said, Dad, would you employ me any day of the week? And if you behaved at work like you do in your room, you would be fired first day. But as a personality, I would. The other one is that some people are only cats, but they present themselves as a tiger. Eventually, they get themselves into trouble, right? For those of you who see soccer, Zlatan Ibrahimovic could be one. Donald Trump another. Other people are rightfully tigers, but for various reasons they only present themselves as cats. And in this case, I see to you as a consultant, if you have tiger potential, and if you say that's good, I'm so sorry that you only present yourself as a cat. Who of you was in Susanne Poulsen's workshop? She's my co-teacher and I love her dearly. And she started her presentation by being humble. She always asked, used 5 minutes telling us that we could leave if we didn't like it. And I was like, why did you do that? Was it fair to say for us who attended it, it was good? Was it boring? No. Did you want to leave after 1.5 hours? No. People ask questions. I said, it's almost to the point that can't we get 10 more minutes? And we talked about it on the way home. Because I said, you have to learn something from that. Like she teaches me every day. Every day. She even texted me, my mobile is there, and this morning with a very cute note how much she respected me and said, be careful with that and that. So that's why we work together. As you know, the Enneagram is about motivation. And I normally say when I show this slide, we can hear that guy say, I don't want to paddle. No, but you will shortly. In a minute you will. And I use this picture to talk about basic fears and basic desires. Because one thing about the Enneagram is people like the concept that it's about motivation. Because we love to talk about motivation at work. But most people don't like to understand that everything they do probably comes from something they're afraid of. It doesn't sell the product well. You get it? So, and you know the Enneagram, but it's the same end of the same line. So if I'm afraid of being a failure as a 3, my desire is to become successful. Right? So it's the opposite of the same. But it's a way for me to introduce, and at this point I talk to the corporate environment about how much money do you think could be revealed, or how many resources, how much power could be revealed in the world if people became 5% more motivated. We couldn't even measure the numbers. So, and then I say, the worst thing about people is that what motivates type 7 probably demotivates type 1. So that's why when we do this, and remember I come from sales, I've been on 100 plus team building events where we shoot somebody or we paddle something or we diet or walk on fire or whatever, all kind of shit. And I loved it because I'm one of the type that loves it. But eventually I came to the conclusion that 60% of the corporate hate it. So why, and I had a man, the reason he said, are you telling me that I should go around and say the same thing in 9 ways? Yes, that's called leadership. I don't have time for that. No, that's why you're lousy. Then, of course, I present the Enneagram. Firstly, with my own model, the way I produce it. The way I put the orange line, people ask, is that a new theory that we can have a long wing or whatever? No, it's just something from up there. So it's my type 4 designer who think it looks fancy. So people calling on, you said you have to have 1 wing, but I can see you can be a 9 with a 1, 2, a little bit 3 wing. No, it's just graphics. So, what I use this for is, at this point I say to people, I think, for example, Donald Trump is an I. And people react like that. Even people who don't know, and they look at that. I don't think so. If I said to them, I think I'm a 5. I don't think so. So I say to people, then I say, okay, if you can say, no, Donald Trump, I don't think so. If I say so, would it be fair to say, I think Barack Obama could be an I, for example? And then people say, yeah, it would be fair. Which means that they can see Barack Obama more 90s than Donald Trump. We don't know if it's true or accurate, but they can see. And I say, if you can do that with 2 presidents you have never met and you probably will never meet, it's fair for me to say to you, pick. And because I'm kind today, I say, you're allowed to pick 2. If you really, really, really need it, pick 3. If you need more than 3, don't pick. You're type 6. And when they have picked a number or 2 numbers, I ask them to prioritize them. So I would have, without knowing the Enneagram, I think I would have said, I think I could be an 8, I think I couldn't I be a little 3 perhaps? I could be a 7. So I think I would choose 8, 3, and 7. And then I would stack them only on the wording. So of course I could stack them wrong. But I won't ask people to stack them. Do you get it? And then if there's a big crowd of people, I ask them, and I will do that in the room now because you know the type, I ask them to stand up when I say the number. Before I do that, I ask them to do this exercise I call it Enneagram bingo, which means that people look at a person they don't know, and they just say the numbers. God need a witness. Which means that the 5s now have to choose a type. They thought they did it in the head, and suddenly they had to share. So and I don't want to say, my name is Claus from Denmark. I just look at a person and say 8, 3, 7. Thank you. 1, 9, 6. Okay, thank you. Nothing more. Don't explain it. Many people start, but I can see something in the 2 as well. Yeah. It would be me like if I should choose, if I should choose between the, what is it? This is they call a meerkat. This type 6 animal. What? I love it. I actually use this when I do teaching. And I have a story about that animal. When I tell it, Susanne almost pisses her pants. It's a really good story. And remind me, and I will tell it. But if I should choose between this and one of you have the lion, by the way, can we change? I would rather have the lion. It doesn't mean I don't like this, but this is not me. I could pretend I am, but I am not. I remember when I did a workshop with David and Catherine, and for those who tried it, where we make a big board with quotes that you love. You should visualize your type. We had days to do it. When workout session where we were clapping and I loved it, and I still have it back home, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. And then we put it all on the wall, and people should walk around and hear from you. Why did you choose this picture, and what does it mean to you? And of course we were asked to be brutally honest. Not only that I'm this fancy, no, this is me from the inside out. And at that point, I choose the silverback as my totem did. Because for me, a silverback, he's big, he's sitting there, looking at all his women and all his children, and doesn't do anything else than just sits there. And if necessary, he'll turn me in piss off. And then if they don't understand it, he'll grab her or something, and then in the end, if they don't understand it, shit hits the fan. For me, that was like, that's how I am as a personality. If some do something, you know my types, or some do something to you, and I only know you in a conference, they're in trouble. And I was so proud. I think it was such a good metaphor. And then I walked around, and 4 other 8 have chosen. That's mine animal. So it is funny to say, if you were a dog, what dog would you be? But when we look into it, a dog that has something to do with you. So the Basset dog is a type 9 dog. The 7 is the Labrador. Let's play. Throw the stick. Come on. Come on. And inspired by Tom Condon, I said, the worst thing about being a 6 is even the names of my type is rude. No, who want to be the first book ever written about the Enneagram? I think the 6 was called The Coward. First of all, is it fair to say that author was a bad author? Then that person I can't imagine, they couldn't understand what a 6 is all about. But I would, if I was sitting with the report, and my colleague on one side was the romantic, and the other one over there was the enthusiast, and I'm the coward. I think I would be sick that day. I don't want to go to any workshop. And already here, of course, I say to people that I can find a word all the way around that has something to do with me. Of course I can, and you can. Just to make people ease up that, yeah. Because as you have tried 100, I have what I call, there are 10 questions I think I've had at least 10,000 times. Can we shift your time? I think it was another one with someone young. Oh, you know them. You know them. So some of these answers that I know are in people's head, I try to answer them while making my show. And of course, some trust me, you believe me, and others think this was great. But I had the question there. My father-in-law, when he cut the grass, the line is almost like perfect. Is he a perfectionist? I don't know. It could be he's a gardener, goddammit. My sister reads a lot of books. Is she 5? I don't know, perhaps she's going to an exam. My wife, she's so angry. Is she an 8? No, she's your wife. All women get angry. But they get angry for various reasons. Right? So I say to, and I have all kind of, depending on who's in the room, if it's youngsters, or sometimes I ask people, if you got 1 million rand, whatever, a big amount of money, what would you spend them on? That's your type. Or as Ross said, I don't care what type you think you are. What gets you into trouble? That's your type. And I want to be, I want to be safe, but I'm not. Do you get it? And then in my book I have pictures, because as we see down here, that's why Africa will be my new family. I can't even tell you how much I sense this place on earth is for me. I love when we use music. I love when we heard the Bohemian Rhapsody. I love when Casper showed his choir yesterday. Because lyrics, if we only show each other, if we only see, what is the letters, eventually it becomes boring, right? We need the music, we need pictures, we need quotes, I don't care. So I try the best I can to spread out the way I teach in the so spread out variant that people can like it or understand it from a certain perspective. Down to quotes, so I have what I call my pixie book. This is taken from my real book, just to show you. It's a very, 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 very short outline of what's the type. Because this is not dangerous to bring home to your wife. You get it? It's not dangerous to bring this home and put it on the toilet and sit and read and say, okay, that could be my wife. Well, that's my strong. It takes a time at the loo, unless you're 5, you can read the 9 letters of the word, but I don't have that much time. So this is, and the reason why I say this is that if you bring the wisdom of the Enneagram, the spiritual guide to better awareness, and say to your wife, we want to talk? No way! If you want silence at a table, just say you're a psychologist. People go. So I make it light, and my book is written by Susanne, who's a 5, which means it's not a light book. It's a precise book. Because Susanne can, in 10 lines, say what I say in 10 hours. Do you get it? So I say to people, when you have written this, read it. Then you can read the read book, and then you can read, and then I have, of course, a literature list with the books I find inspiring. And some people will say, why haven't you mentioned that book? For a reason. One of the reasons why the Enneagram in Denmark, I think Denmark has the reputation, and I think you will agree that I think Denmark is a country where most people per citizens know the Enneagram. And this is bragging, but it's right. I've been one of the reasons. I've had taught more than 125,000 people the Enneagram in Denmark. That's a goddamn lot. Doesn't mean that they all understand the Enneagram, but they have been introduced at least. And which means that 20 years ago when I started, or almost 20 years ago, when I asked a person, I teach them something called the Enneagram, people were like, what? But now it's more and more common that I've heard about that. And from the States to you will say, one of the reasons the Enneagram became so big later on in Denmark is your work. Is that model, that report. Because that, for once in Denmark, removed the strangeness about it. It doesn't mean that I don't accept the spirituality. I hope you understand that. I understand it. But corporate environment don't understand vices, and they don't understand it, and they don't care. They want higher revenue, they want less sick people, they want a higher production. So the report, because it's so well written, so accurate, so beautiful, it looks something that is made from business people to business people. So I can't thank you enough. And when I was down here in January, I had a meeting with the whole team. It was so good to be allowed to talk to them so they understand what the product means to me 10,000 kilometers away. And I could speak the voice of my clients because I think I am the one in the world who buys most tests, which means that I think I normally say, if I give you an advice, please listen. Okay. A lot of people say, I can't change the world by myself. And I think, yes, you can. And as Dalai Lama have said, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And another way to say this is, how many jerks do we need in a company before it has an impact on us? One, right? And sometimes I say, because I've taught the medical industry, so I learned the word incubation time. Is that the word that said incubation time? Is that right? Incubation time. That word, yes. And my son once said, what does that mean then? From a stitch to a scratch. That's the word. And is it fair to say when we are just a little bit out of balance, it only takes seconds. It's not even minutes. Only seconds before I get pissed off or angry or sad, or if I meet a client or a customer or personality. And I always say to people, the bad thing about corporate environment is that we meet in, let's say 10 minutes before we open the doors. And in that 10 minutes, we can all be assholes when the clients come in, if we spread negative energy. Even worse, if a person is really, really high level functioning, there's a big chance that they actually piss off other people. We have a very, very respected speaker in Denmark who works with the body, what we eat, and all this. I really highly respect him. And I did Enneagram training for Lego, which is from Denmark. You know Lego. And I did something with him, and Chris McDonald is his name. He was on stage with me, and he said, we actually do the same, Claus. I'm interested in the body, how we eat, and you're interested in what happens between our ears. And we laughed about it, and then he said, it could be that we should do something together. Trust me, that would be good for me, because he's all over the television and so on like that. And we laughed about this, and then on stage, there was hundreds of people I was looking at, and all people that work with health, they're so slim, they look so damn good, right? And he has muscle, and I was thinking, I'm not going to be in television with that, I don't want to be there. Then I would rather find a fat one to So actually, instead of being proud of him and praise him for being a sporty personality, I got angry with him because he reminded me how fat I am. And I think we call it, I think it's something about shadows, right? It's something we see something in them that we would love to have, but instead of accepting, we just say, you're strange, or you're dumb, you're stupid, I don't like it. And people understand this. Then I use the model that you know from the trainings that we can all act like a 4. And I will just go back because what I show, not to talk bad about DISC, but DISC is pretty big in Denmark, as it is all around the world. And I say to people, I can learn you everything that there is to learn about DISC in 3 hours, and then you know everything you have to know. What if you want day 2? Then I can say it again. Is it fair to say? Yeah, I am not. I haven't seen my own iceberg yet being an 8. In May in Lisbon, there was a guy called Frederick Cohn who talked about the Enneagram and sexuality. Was anyone attending? It blew me away. It was like, holy shit, this is, not because it was about sex, of course, the title did something to me, but it was actually very powerful stuff. So I over and over again, every time I meet with some of you, when you realize you have done something, I'm shocked that it's the carpet that continuously delivers back to you. So I say to people, don't only look at the behavior. That's why when sales people want to hear, what is that type, what is my client, is that a 1 or 6? I don't know, because you can only see the behavior. But if you become good at asking good questions, there is a very good risk/chance that you eventually will get a sense of, this could be a 6, this could be a 9. Or at least it will narrow down the chances of talking wrong. Is it fair to say? When I talk about motivation and communication, let's make a very short exercise. I want you to take off your hands. I want to see your hands. All of them. Short exercise 5, you don't have to share anything. It's one of my high-level communication exercises. On 3, we clap. 1, 2, 3. Yes? I should have known. That's why they didn't understand your speech, Jerry. The intelligence in the room is not that high. Why do I do what I just did? I do that to tell people that when we talk about communication, as you know, the way we talk, how we look when we talk, and what we say while we talk is what communication is all about. I can say, my God, I love you. But it's hard to trust from your body. You can do another exercise, funny. Do with me what I do now. I say, yes, Claus, I'm agreeing. Yes, Claus, I'm agreeing. Please follow me. Yes, Claus, I'm agreeing. You can't. You say, no, yes, Claus. So, why do I use it? Usually when I now go to the type and tell about the type, I say to people, I will kind of act the type. It's called controlled schizophrenia for a couple of hours. And I'm pretty good at coming back to my 8-ness. So I try the best. Of course, I cannot fully comprehend how it is to be a 5 or a 6 or a 9 because that's not me. But I've done it so many times that I find that the way I do it makes people laugh and makes people see that I could be a type this or that. Of course, if in an introduction is 3 hours, of course some people go out and say, I'm in doubt, I could be that or that. But they're not in doubt in the way that they think they are all 9, unless they're 6s. And when I show this, I always tell the story about Clay Toomey, who was one of the guys who was incarcerated in the US, one of the guys from Enneagram Prison Project. I've written a beautiful book called The Blue Chip Storm, where it says that the Enneagram saved his life, and it did. And he said, I thought I was an 8, Claus, when I heard about Enneagram. He's a 5. He's a 5 with a 4 wing. How goddammit would you think you're an 8? And he said, if I haven't had 8 behavior while I was in prison, I will have been dead. I was with 5,500 other men incarcerated. That makes all of us type 8 on a behavioral way. So again, over and over, as I said Thursday, I'm so pissed off when I hear leadership program in Denmark talk about if you should be a good leader, you should be like this. Crappy shit to say. You should be you. And as I said Thursday, and I can repeat it now, if I teach you in the Enneagram to be you, please allow me from here to be me, because this is me. Okay? So I think all people in the room who knows me, there's not a big difference between who's on stage and who I am in private. Anna, can you, as one of my co-teachers, there's not a big difference. Of course I do things privately that I don't do on stage. Masturbates, for example. It's pretty rare that I do that on stage. Unless people ask. Then the minute we start talking about the level of development, it's two things can happen. People start to see, okay, it's not a narrow system. There is various variations of me. And the phrase I use is, you can be a football fan or you can become a hooligan. And then I talk about that everything you do too much become your own worst enemy. As Jeremy so beautifully said when he did his keynote. That everything we do, let's just for the fun of it take the three things I said. I said I would have us laugh. If I only make jokes. Even the seventh eventually would say, it's enough now, right? If I provoked and provoked and provoked and provoked and provoked, we have a comedian in Denmark who does that. In my opinion, he's stupid. It fans where you provoke, once, two, and it's part of your brain, but if you can't do anything else, shut up. And I even have to say to my 5 friends, if you only talk competences, sorry, Michael, unless the topic is extremely exciting to me, it becomes boring. So we have to be able to shift gears. And that's, for me, is what the Enneagram is all about. Of course, we have all types, all the things we know. So I say, and of course I have to explain to them, it doesn't mean that all 8s are delusion and violence. All 7s, and 8s have delusion and compulsion. It just means that all type can be in different layers. Because all the 3s think, look what I said, social value, that's me. No, it just means 3 at level 3, as you know, is a certain personality. And people then start to understand that even though we can be 5 or 6 or 7 type 1s in the room, we can be very different. And when people sometimes say to me, if you think Donald Trump is an 8 and you're an 8, aren't you sad then? No, because with my heart, I can actually, if he's an 8, I can actually sense into where he's coming from. So I could eventually forgive him if he stops soon. So I hope, who knows, I hope I am on a more mature level than Donald Trump is. Otherwise, please, friends, tell me. Because I would rather hear it from you than I would hear it of you on the street. Do you get it? So I often say to people, a real friend is the one who confronts your shit.
Yeah.
If you only have friends that only say good things about them, find real friends. Because when I confront you, not because I'm an 8, it's because I love you. Because if I didn't care, I would just leave. So I train the corporates to understand that, and that's one of the talents of my own time, is that we should try to be more honest. Of course, in a respectful, caring, way. Honesty for an 8 is just, you're not just allowed to say whatever you want. Well, look at those shoes, they're ugly. That's not to be honest, that's stupid. But let's be honest with each other. So I try to give them an idea of what the levels are all about, and the way I do it is that on the right side of the screen you can see the word both and. Either or only. Do you see? For me it's about, let's say for example, type 1 and 6 would probably both know that I am a personality who works after the concept more or less, duty before pleasure. And I know, count before pick 6, I know you won't say yes, but the other one would say yes. Is it fair? If I ask, if you use the Honavians, I often say type 1, 2, and 6, the dutiful types, responsible types. Is it fair to say that your life attention is more on other people's needs, the family need, the business need, the team's need, than it is on your need? Is it fair to say? Yeah. And eventually you spend all your time on the other ones. Is it fair to say, if you look at the assertive types, 8, 7, and 3, there is a pretty big chance when you go down the level and you become more and more my. It's me. It's about you are in my family. You become more narcissistic, more my, look at me. Is it fair to say? And you eventually won't give a fuck about the other one. Both of these personality traits becomes trouble-ish eventually. So I try to let people understand that, no, because people of course start thinking, what's the best type? It's not a type, it's a level. Which means you are perfect as you are. Don't change type, change levels. And from that on, everything I do is about that. That's the reason why I teach the Enneagram. It's not about the beautiful descriptions of the type.
Can I just add one small thing?
Yes! Then I can have a drink, gin and tonic.
The IEQ measures from here very low upwards, not
I'm glad you put it on, because people freak out when they see the report. And, oh, it says I'm low. I had a CEO recently, and he loves me, and he's a pretty powerful aide. And he said he got angry at a meeting, and I've talked to him 6 and 7 days in a long period of time. And then he said, "Do you what is it? Claim. Thank you." He said, "Do you claim that we have 5 senior vice presidents and we are all down there because it's in the road?" I said, "No, I don't claim. I know you guys. You are." And he looked at me like there was this fraction of a second where you see the head said, like, say what? And then he started laughing because she knew the Enneagram. I said, and I use this to say something. The problem today, in the Western world at least, is that what we call normal is partly crazy already. I normally say to people, if you want to look rich, go with poor people. If you want to look tall, mingle with dwarfs. If you want to feel clever, we have a girl in Denmark who's called Amalie, she's as stupid as a dog. And then meet Amalie. What I try to say is, who are you comparing to? Do you get it? So the problem today is, if we look at our body, for example, this is not to point at any one of us. Of course, if I want to look slim, I can go to Texas. Diane, where are you? Isn't it fair? Most people, I can go to Florida. But if I go to part of Asia, if I go to Singapore, I'm the fat one. And this is not to talk about heavy or slim. I hope you understand. The problem is today that we are all under an amount of psychological pressure that makes most people terrified about, if I have to look into who I am, there is something I have to shift. Because I often say, when I teach the Enneagram, I say to even 8s, 3s, and 7 think the planet runs too fast. I say to them, if you think it, what do you think 5s, 4, and 9 thinks? They're not even on the planet anymore. It's like they're standing there like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then they just withdraw and say, okay, I didn't even win anyway. So I use pictures so normal people understand what this extremely beautiful model is and how powerful this is. And then I talk about responsibility and guilt, which we in Denmark call the blame game. So what happens when we go down the level, we all know, we start blaming other people. It's your fault that I'm angry today. Because actually the brain is pretty smart here, I think. Because the worse I become, the more miserable I feel. And because I can't cope with it, because I know it's bad somewhere, I have to find victims. What do you think that costs on a corporate level every day around the world? And most companies function at level 5, in my opinion. I often say to people, if I could bring all your employees at level 4 within a year, you would pay me whatever I asked you. And then I say something about that. Remember, people are not employees only. They're somebody's wife. They are sisters to someone. They are the dad of someone. So up and down the levels don't divide if you're at work or if you are in private life. And then I have to say to people, because people ask me, the 25 months that I've been teaching while Birgitte was ill, she got pancreatic cancer that spread to the liver. That means you die. And I always say to people, if money could have saved her, I think Steve Jobs would have been here today. He died. Patrick Swayze, he died. My wife, she died. And I was on stage, and of course, doing stand-up comedian-like shows, people ask me respectfully, how can you do it while your wife is sick? Because I said, this model has nothing to do about being happy or unhappy. It has something to do, how do I cope with the unhappiness that's within me? Of course, it would be strange if I went down the level when that happens. Like if you lose your job, or if the microphone doesn't work, or the traffic jam, of course it influences you. So I use a lot of time to tell people that the Enneagram is a development tool. This is not. Then I use these two lyrics. When you are no longer able to change situations, we are challenged to change ourselves. And then the saying, I think he sat in concentration camp for years. And I love the last one. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And I give the example, if I come driving in my big Mercedes and you come driving in your small Kia or whatever private car you drive, and I come on the highway and I drive by you and I give you the finger. And it's not for everyone, it's to you. I brought it all the way to South Africa to give it to you. Can you sense into, I don't have to do this for a long period of time before you can feel. Back to you. Now we are two jerks on the highway. And now we're not even at work. So that's how rapidly, I use this to explain how rapidly we shift and how easily we get out of our balance. I know for a fact that my level of maturity changes depending on who I'm with. I had periods of my time, of my lifetime. I know it's a joke that your mother-in-law is crazy. That's just an average joke. In my case, she was. And because I knew the Enneagram, I could find love for her. But she was hard to be around. That's fair to say. Not only me who said it, every person. All three men who left her for a good reason. All her children, her grown children, wouldn't see her eventually. So she was difficult, okay? I had times where I had to say to myself, and therefore to my family, tomorrow I will not go to mother-in-law, because I am at a certain place inside me, that today I won't even threaten to kill her. I will. So because I love the family, and because I somewhere love mother-in-law, I stay home to meditate. Or see Formula 1 or something better. So do you get what I'm trying to say? So I train corporates to talk openly about the levels so they can say to each other, today is not my best day. Bear over with me. In whatever that means. I made the joke once in a corporate where we had like flags we can put up and down depending on how crazy we were. The sad thing about that, most people say they were in the middle, and the flag in the middle in Denmark means that somebody died. So people say, we don't like the metaphor, we like the idea, so we find another way. It's a little bit like when we have a physical illness, we say to people, don't hug me today, I have a small cold or something like that. It's fully allowed, right? But it's not allowed to say, don't complete those today. I'm at level 6, I said, so back off, because at 7, it's not good. But if we knew what it meant, we could help each other. In Denmark, which is a small country, a report has recently come out that 35,000 people out of 6 million. 35,000 people are going down with severe stress every day in Denmark. And people say it can't be true because then eventually the highways will be empty. No, because other people come back. But 35, WHO, World Health Organization have said that stress in year 2025 will be the illness that kills most people on planet Earth. And I took the role, as you heard, to be the running Enneagram Forrest Gump. I will try to stop it. It can be I will be the only one running, but it can be that we will only be 150 running. It can be, but when you say something clever here, it comes on Facebook because then other people can hear how clever it is. Which means that the reason why I'm on Facebook is not to brag, is because when you said Ubuntu and explained what it meant to me so I could feel it, all my friends in Denmark have to understand what you said. So you will be the 5 popular guests that, isn't it cool? And look at that dress. No matter how I did, I will never be as beautiful as you. Never. Say it again. Say the 3 words. I know what it means, but it sounds so good. I don't even have to say it just sounds right. What does it mean? It means I am because you are. That's cool. Then of course I talk about the brain, and I say I'm madly newly in love. So that's how my brain looks. It's not the full truth, but I couldn't show what's inside as well. But I talk a little bit about the brain without being too brain chemical. I love all you guys who work with neuroscience. I really, really do. And I think you can help the Enneagram world tremendously by bringing one of the amazing studies to us. I remember Dario, I think he was a presenter at the Enneagram Conference 10 years ago, I think, in the US. And he did a neuroscience science report, and he used the MBTI, because at that time MBTI still was very big. And he said publicly, if I could do it all over, I would have used the Enneagram. And I think, as I remember, we all shouted, do it! And we will even pay you. Because that's what we need. We need that report, as I said today. There can be these books for those who want to read it, and for all of the others who have an appendix like this. It says here, shut up, the Enneagram works. And then I tell to people, the problem about being a human being is that when you make decisions, and we talk about the centers, most of our life, it's 2 against 1. My body says yes, my head says yes, but my heart says no. I often say, who would be, if you get married, in Denmark, we still have a divorce percent pretty close around 50. Wouldn't it be a little tragic if a priest started to say, before we go further, I want to give you some statistics here. So we want the priest to be emotional, because it's an emotional day. We put our heart together and we live together for it eternally. Yeah, sounds good. Monogamy looks good when 2 small swings, it looks beautiful. But real life, with human being, doesn't work. Or it's a hard work. Is it fair to say? So this is where I think my style or lack of style, because my son sometimes says, do you really say what you say? Yes. And the reason, and he said, doesn't people get angry? Some does, but most people sense into what that guy said. Fair and square. And then, of course, I do introductions to the centers, which you all know that we have here. And then I, of course, say when I do short introductions that there are 3 types in the room that will probably go out in 2 or 3 hours and say, I was a little bit of all. Type 3, 6, and 9. But I normally say, if you are 9, the way I present the Enneagram at least, I know that most 9s, unless they're in the room against their will, most 9 will pretty rapidly say, That's me. 3s and 6s are special cases because it's depending on what I say about the 3s. So if I talk about type 3, like, have you met people that are just on top of the world? They're good at everything. They look good. I don't know why, but they're handsome. They're hardworking. They're people that we look up to. People that are like shining. And you can just see the 3s. The minute I start about the more, and then I could be a 7, I think. I'm a very strange theory. I see the good thing of the 3, but I can't see that. 6s are very special cases. That's why I love the 6s. Because they sit and they hear, I start with the 8, and they listen to me and say, that could be me. That could be me. Blonde and yes, but I'm not that angry. And then they hear about the 9, and they have a hard time with taking decisions because they want all to be. That could be a 9, but I'm conflict avoiding. Am I conflict avoiding? I think I'm conflict avoiding. Then comes type 1, orderly. That's me. I'm not rigid. Yeah, am I rigid? They're saying the ones already know what it happened. Then comes the 2, family-oriented, kind. That's me. But naive. Am I naive? I don't think I'm naive. And I'm not that sweet. Type 3, making lists. That's me. And then a lot of lists. That's me. But I'm not a bragging person. Actually, I hate when people brag. Successful, never had success. I think it was luck. Then type 4, unique, outside. People find them hard to understand. That's me. I always get misunderstood. That's me. I could be a 4. Melancholic. Art is 5s. Reading books, go deep. Yes, that's me. I sometimes read the book 3 times so I don't forget something. I could be a 5. Geeky. I've never heard of geeky. Only nerdish. 7, spontaneous. That's me. That's me. Have fun. I love fun. Actually, when I go on holiday, I even plan when to have fun. I'm spontaneous, and I know I go to the same campsite every year for 32 years, and I'm all spontaneous. In week 32 and 33, where we have summer holiday, because I love those weeks. That was superficial. And then eventually I could see the 6 line. Then there's only the 6s back. And then they're back into it, and all the colleagues said, you are 6! We knew it from the first time we were hearing it. Are you sure? And then it starts again. But where does the theory come from? Who invented it? I did a training for many hundreds firefighters. And when I talked about the sensors and I talked about emotions, of course it was a male-ish industry in a male job, all males. There were a very few amount of women, and the women that were there were all 8 women, so women or women. So there was a very strong masculine energy in the room. And they talked about emotions in a kind of like, you know, this, like we have in all police departments and mechanical. There's some industry where it's almost not accepted to have love. And then I found a movie. I said, I just show them that they can see this. Just for. And then we talk about emotions afterwards.
เอาอะไรไปออกมานี่ไปทำอะไรเนี่ยฮะจะเอาไปทำอะไรเอาไว้ให้แม่
เจ๊แป๊บนึงแม่ป่วยเหรอหมวยเกาเหลาจ๋อนั่งเลยครับนั่งเลยป๊าจัดไปอ้าวสั่งมาเร็วต่อ
heart ain't open now, you don't have one. The Enneagram is probably not for you then. But it was so beautiful to see all these guys tattooed, they were crying like babies. I have another one, all those were soldiers come home, because that reminds them of their own job. So I talked to Casper yesterday. It's not to talk bad about our head. I just started to say, we have academia enough on the planet now. We don't need more spreadsheet to know that the plastic in the oceans, God damn it, swim out, pick it up, and don't throw anything more in it. We have KPIs, action plans, to-dos, enough now. We need more love at work. And this sounds blunt. I had an AIDS CEO who said, what you do sounds like something for faggots and people who dance ballet. And I looked at him and I said, then I hope you think I dance ballet. And I said, well, what does it mean, what you said? I said, what should we use this for? That. And I don't have to explain any of this to this group of people. But if you're in the banking industry where they're about to collapse at work, or people who work so the blood comes out every hole they have in the body, you have to remind human beings that we cannot be human beings without opening our heart. So that's why I try at least, and as you see, I cry at least 10 times every day I teach. I actually recently heard one who said, do you think he planned it? And it was a little shock, like I was telling a story about that I've become a man who really love it. And he actually thought I was like standing with an onion, like if you cannot sense if it's real or not, you really need to read. You have to read Jerry's book. Do you get it? So, oh, sorry. And then I go through the types. And of course, I will not go through the types today, but I will give you an example. Of course, I tell what a type 8 is and so on. Of course I do. But what I do is, there are certain things I always say about a certain type, because it comes to my experience that if I tell these stories, all 8s, for example, will know they are 8s. And about 8s, I always tell the story that they have this big energy and all the things, And then I talk about the fence, that we have this protecting fence, that if you're inside, I will do whatever I can to protect you, but if you're on the outside, I hope Mother Nature will kill you. And if you're really, really, really weak, I will help you. If you are a sissy weak, I will kill you. So it's this very black and white. And then I often say to the 8s that it's not what you're saying, it's the way you say it. It is that I remember being a small child. Of course, at least as all 8s have heard that I take up space, and I've heard that all my life, of course. But I remember one particular, when I was, I think, 5 to 6 years old. I remember a woman who looked at me with what they know calls disgust, and said, she doesn't even say I was taking up space, she said, you are too much. And I remember I didn't understand. What does that mean? If I'm too much, are you then too little? What does it mean? You don't even have the courtesy to tell me, what did you mean? And ever since, I know I have that energy. Sometimes I've been asked if I want a headset on if there are 30 people. I say, no. I don't need headsets. I need headsets if there are 30,000 people. So I know I have that in tremendous energy, and I know it's my gift and my worst enemy, in the same. So that's why I when I do speech, I try to find moments where I can reduce the power, so to speak, and energy, because that's when I know that people are struck by what I'm saying. So I train, and I do the best I can, and sometimes I succeed, and sometimes, oops, I did it again. And then I say the story, I of course tell about how soft the 8s are on the inside. So I try to put in that what you see, when we hear about 8, what you see is what you get. We all know that's a lie. Part of it is the truth. But when you see my vulnerability as well and my big heart, then what you see is what you get. And then I have a lot of pictures. I have stolen them from others, I found them on the internet, or people that loves the Enneagram send it to me all the time. And I love it. Please continue. I have all kind of quotes. I actually think the girl in the bottom corner, she is an 8 in real life. Look, she looks like an 8. And I especially love the 2 highest ones. People don't cry because they're weak. They cry because they've been strong for too long. Or the word part about being strong is that no one ever asks if you're okay. Susanne told a story yesterday about an 8 who went through a surgery, and the family just like, yeah, and then we go to the TV tomorrow, because it was almost like, you can cope with that. I remember when Birgitte was ill, actually, it took almost a year before the first person outside the Enneagram world asked me and hold me in my hand and said, how are you? Don't raise your voice, the 8s, improve your argument. But just because you scream, it doesn't mean it become a better plan. And by the way, can I ask the 8s to rise up for a second? So nobody in this conference has yet asked what type we are in the room, and I would love to hear it. Can I have all the 8s to rise up, sorry. Thank you. Does that ring a bell for you? Thank you, brothers and sisters. When I skip the 9, the way I do it is that I say, if we talked about 8, it is simply too boring to talk about the 9 afterwards. We have to skip that for a minute and I will come back to them. And I do that for a reason. Because actually, in real workshop where we go deep, I sometimes forget the 9 on purpose. And then they come in the break like, sorry, it can be, I was a little distant, but don't be, wasn't this one of the times? I think, why did you wait? I don't want to fuss up the room. Can you imagine we forgot the 8s? The teacher won't even leave her, hey! So I skipped the 9, not to talk bad of them, of course. I skipped them to explain the concept of what I felt. The 8 are too much body, and the 1 are more like restricted body. I'm not angry, I just doesn't breathe. So could I please ask the ones to rise up, just so I can get a view of how many beautiful ones do we have? Don't raise, but stand up please, so see we have a sense how many we are with you. Thank you. Now you can see there are only women ones. There are no men ones to be around. No, the reason why I do this standing up is that actually when I have all international conferences, when somebody do this, of course I don't count because if there's 600 people, I don't have the time. But I sense into how many of each personality is in the room. Because it gives me hope for the planet that they're all there. Because as we talked about a couple of days ago, we don't see that many 4s in, it was the leadership program, I can't remember, Marlene Delane? You didn't have reports on 4s, right? I've only seen one type 4 CEO in my entire career. One. And he hated it. He hated it. He tried over and over to sell his company to somebody who wanted it. And he said, I hate it. He said, why are you there? I got it from my dad. I hate it. So, type 1, what I say about 1 is of course all things. And then what I especially remember about the ones is to say more positive things. Because I learned in life, if I say 10 good things about the 1 and 1 bad, it's 1-1. So I try to emphasize that what they're trying to do. And from now on, I start talking about how much we get misunderstood being our type. So I know, of course, that type 4 saying, totally, nobody understands me. Nobody understands me as an 8 as well. I feel equally misunderstood. Depending on the group, I sometimes tell stories about the type that are very deep. Something I've heard from real ones, real 6s and all. Really heavy stuff that crack people crying every single time. I never do that when I do what I call the funny introduction to the Enneagram. But if I have a group of people that are into it and want to hear it, then I go pretty deep with humor and so they really go away. And I say, for me, if people have been a little angry while they saw me, they have been emotionally touched, and they're curious to go back and read more, then I succeeded, in my opinion. What I say about ones is that I spend a lot of time talking about judging a person does not define who they are, it defines who you are. So every time you judge, you exclude yourself. So if I say, I don't like women with black hair, I don't like tall people, I don't like rich people, I don't like women who wear gold, the more I do this, you see, the more I isolate me. So that's why we all, of course I tell people about the Enneagram, it's about the connecting us, that we are all together, and I give the metaphor, we are all in the same boat, we just rowing in different those in the world. Okay? And the reason why we go around is that we only do the same all the way. So if you do this all the way, you end up the same place. So you need other people in the boat to do something else. And then I, of course, make a lot of jokes about how easy ones are to provoke. And then I start do something like I tried to do earlier on. And I start do small things, just to. And then I often say, if we now continue to type 9, for example, if the theory I'm bringing now is interesting, most people will eventually forget that I look crazy now. Won't. They will eventually break. Can you please go back to the way you look, because I can't hear what you're saying. And that's where I tell the ones with humor, get drunk. Even better, get late. Or both. Because if you spend all your time in life looking at what's not correct in a bad way. I have a CEO who's the one, I love him dearly. He's training for do an Ironman. He says when he do a training pass, no matter he swim or he bicycle or he runs, he said at least 5,000 times on one training pass, I hear my voice say, oh my God, why didn't they paint that fence? Why didn't they? And I said, I don't even enjoy nature. Do you relate, dear one? So if I'll go back. And then I do the same as most teachers. And I know that some people say that Germany is a socialist country, but I use it as an example that where do we see oneness? Which country, which culture, which company in Denmark is very oneness, and so on. For the 9, of course, I tell the 9 that they have to step up, and I always. The joke I make when I try to look like a 9 is that when they walk, it's like their arms are separate. It's like it's a little bit like where one goes, it's more like that's the one. The 3 are more like because 8 are more like they just wait for what? It's a little bit like they want to fight all the time. 5s, and this is, I learned this from Ross. I remember Ross, he was back in my home in Denmark, privileged enough to have him in my house, and my daughter, she was only 7 years old at that time, and Ross went through my house, and Sophie went after him and walked straight back. And then I said, that's rude. And she said, he looks like a troll. And every time I actually show, I use this every day, so the South African must be proud. And I say, I thought that Nelson Mandela was a 9, but I know now he was probably a 1 with a 9 wing. So I say that, but his quotes are very 9-ish. Yeah, that was so. So it's a little bit like my arms is put on afterwards. So it's like my arms are just following around. I I say to my son, he's a 9, I say, if you are more calm than you are now, you will shit your pants. That's what I don't know how type 2 walks, because Christina always wants to be in bed, so I don't know. And of course, when I talk about type 2, I talk a lot about the inner accountant, that they go around making notes for, who said thank you and who didn't know. So I, in a very early phase, I start telling 2s that without they know it, they do this. It's a little bit like they have this, right, pick water for you, so I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And then when I talk about the heart types in general, I talk about that they speak with underlines. It's a little like if I ask them, how are you? Fine. Okay. For a 5, fine, that's fine. It means good. No, not if I'm a heart type, it means ask me again. Then I talk about the 4s. And the fun thing is that when I do my presentation good about the 4s, they laugh like crazy. Because they can see how hysterically, oh, I forgot. Please choose, raise your hand, choose, just see how many 2s we have in the room. That was why there was so much love in the rooms. Wow. Have we, no, we have beautiful 4s. Where are you? Oh, beautiful, wow, amazing, thank you.
We didn't do 9.
Who cares? Where are you, beautiful 9s? The strongest type in the Enneagram. Where are you? Yes. And 5s, raise your hand above your shoulders so I can see them. Yes. And 6s. Are you sure you're 6s? 7s. Whoa! But there is all people are not here now because it's the last day, but there is a pretty equal spread out. And there are more 2s and 7s, okay, but it's not. Type 3, that work. It's Sunday, so no. You have type 3 in the room. Beautiful 3s, where are you? Look, it's not that different. More 7s and more 2s, but otherwise it's more or less the same. Thank you for reminding me. When I talk about type 4, I talk about that we are all unique. But most of us was born unique, but we die a copy. You see, we were all born totally unique, but eventually we became a copy. But we became like the other 2s or the other 6s or whatever. And so I try sometimes to convince people that, like, if we should vote for someone, vote for the 4s if you like that people are unique. And it could go against the Enneagram. No, it's not. If you understand it, not at all. With the 3s, I talk, of course, about the competition gene and how much that can make them suffer. And then I talk a little bit about the roles they play, and I talk a little bit about what can lead to the chameleon. And I sense when I really tell the 3s, well, I can sense their vulnerability, I can sense how soft they are on the inside and how much they presented themselves as a personality who has everything in order. And suddenly we can see how beautiful they are when they take off some of the masks. And I had a 3 recently who said, I don't dare take off the last mask because I don't think it's in. To the 5s, I often say, read the slide, nod your head if you're agreeing, and then we can continue. Remember, you have all this. And then this is actually, it's actually Susanne's own saying, believing is not the same as knowing. We have a world today where all have opinions, but not many people know anything. They just have opinions. I have an opinion about this. Yeah, congratulations, tell the turtle, I don't care. So, what do you know? I had a 5 CEO recently who said, I would love meetings in the future. You only ask questions if you want to learn something new, and you only talk when you can contribute with something new. Otherwise, shut up. And we don't have to have all these meetings. Then I have the beautiful 6s. Oh, sorry, the 7s. Of course, they're very easy to make, not fun of, but to show in reality, because they are so easy to understand. And of course, when I teach the Enneagram about 7s, I downgrade the humor part and the clown part. And I give the 7s the love they deserve on being spiritual people that really, really want the best from all of us. So that's how, and I say to corporate and right, do you know what? We laugh too little. Why? When we were children, we laughed all the time. Suddenly my daughter said, I can't wait till I become an adult. It's boring. If you don't really take you, be aware. And we have had fun for the last 3 days, right? 4 days. And we have been serious together, we have cried, we have talked, we have formed relationships, network, and we have had fun. Why? Who told business environment it has to be boring? And sometimes I hear people say, do you think Claus is serious? I often say, I think I'm more serious with my job than most people will ever understand. One of the reasons I can't quit, I don't have a plan B. This is my call. And 6s, they are so beautiful. I did an invitation for, and they laugh all the, and I talk about how, for those of us who know the concept of being jealous, we have all tried it. Say yes. Yes. Is it fair to say when I'm jealous, it's because I love you? Jealousy is love packed in shitty paper. Like when we worry about our children, we worry because we care. So over and over again I tell us, because we worry because there's something important here. I give the 6s the love they deserve because they are aware of what's important and what is. And if we don't do something, it will go bad. Sometimes I say to 6s, it would be helpful if you took 80% of all the questions you have and put them aside. And a 6 said to me recently, I've done that. I erased at least 95%. And what's coming out of my mouth is just the things I can't see if I don't ask. I have a type 9 woman friend who says, I have some days when I wake up in the morning, I'm all energized, like the world can just come to me. And when I have those days, I'm only a little afraid. It was so cute. So as Russ recently said, the study of the Enneagram is a study of everything that keeps us away from essence. I'm not normally showing this to business people. I'd rather, from business people, say, your Enneagram style, as Russ said, your Enneagram style is what shows up when you don't. I hope you enjoyed it. For me, it was an honor to be here, and to my new African family, I hope you will invite me back.